Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, the 16th of June, and I'd like to welcome you to APSCo Question Time Live. This morning, I have three panelists, as ever. And the first one you'll know well, who's Tania Bowers, who is the APSCo Legal Counsel, who's been with us for a long period of time and will answer all those compliance, legislational, or any political questions that you've got out there. And then I have Sean Zimdahl. Sean is somebody I've known for a very long period of time, since about 1992 we were working out. We were obviously only children at school then. Sean is currently the president of Allegis Group, covering EMEA. He's used to be actually the CEO of Aston Carter until that was acquired by the group quite some time ago. And actually it's quite a unique group, Allegis Group. It turns over a huge amount of money. We are talking about $15 billion, is a global leader from a talent point of view in solutions, with over 500 locations and actually around 140,000 contractors out there. Specialist areas are, I mean, there's so many of them actually. Technology solutions, obviously an RPO MSP, accounting, finance professional, engineering, science professional, and industrial staff, with the three leading brands that we would know and others, but the three leading ones, Aerotech, Aston Carter, and Tech Systems. So Sean has about 960 people reporting into him, about 650 people in the UK, and the company itself employs a huge number of people in the UK, about 1,400 people. Sean, welcome. Thank you for giving us your time. You're obviously a busy sort of chap out there, and so welcome to Question Time Live.
Thanks,
my next panelist is James Fitzpatrick. James is the MD and the founder, actually, of Boden Group, which was founded in 2012. James came from a great background in the facilities management market and construction recruitment, so knew both of those very well before setting up the business. He runs that business from a Birmingham headquarters, got business in different places around the UK, and I think in Ireland, if I'm right. James has 26 members of staff, so we've gone for a very good medium-sized business and one of the giants out there in the market. What I would also say is that Boden Group were the winners last year of the APSCo Award for the best recruitment company, turning over around £3 to £10 million. So congratulations on that.
Congrats.
We've got two amazing companies and our legal counsel, Tania, to answer your questions. This is what I would say. I say at the beginning of all of these sessions, get your questions in early. We will do our damnedest to answer them all, but if you leave it to the last moment, we might run out of time. Let me kick off. And what we've got is a few questions here, but I'm going to come to two of my panelists and ask them how business is going. Sean, from your point of view, obviously, Allegis Group, great big company, fingers in lots of pies, and a global business as well. How are you seeing the UK fare compared to other countries around the world?
Yeah, I think the UK from a regional perspective has been hit harder than most. I think the US has been very strong from a tech perspective, but has been hit very much from a commercial side. You know, based on the minimum, we're working on the GM line, for example, won't be working currently. Asia is ahead of goal. Our mainland Europe business is shortly behind our peak of last year, so that's come back quite strongly. But the combination of Brexit, I-35, and then COVID clearly had a material impact. I'm not going to lie. I think anyone who's dealing with the UK business at the moment that's growing, you know, all credit to them. But we've absolutely been hit. We had a strong start to the year, and we were well planned for R35, but COVID has then obviously derailed certain projects. About 60% of our business in the UK is actually services, not staffing anymore. So again, large projects being put on hold, redeployments cancelled, project extensions cancelled. So yeah, we've been hit in the UK now. We're seeing the second half of the year slightly differently, but the impact of R35 particularly was significant for us.
Yeah, fair enough. James, let me come to you. So a slightly smaller business, let's say, and in that property market, facilities management, how has COVID-19, IR35 and the kind of mooting of Brexit, has it hit the business?
Yes, absolutely. I think with our contract business, which is probably just over 50% of our GP, the probably IR35 had a bigger effect than COVID. We saw throughout from January to March, a big appetite within nearly all of our private sector customers to significantly reduce their contractors because of IR35. And I think when that was shelved until 2021, I think the FDs and those businesses had already seen that they could get by without some of those contractors, so the decision was made. Actually, the COVID situation has really helped us from a contractor's point of view. We work, a lot of our key clients are big outsourcing businesses that are working with the government on COVID-related projects. So we've done really well out of that, which has propped up the drop in our perm business, which has in terms of new opportunities has been quite significant, but in terms of revenue, most roles that have been offered or are outstanding, we're seeing a lot better ratios around interviews to offers. So all in all, it's been obviously a fairly rough 4 months, but we're standing as we stand here today in a pretty good position, all things considered.
Look, talking about as we stand here today, I'm looking at you, and behind you, I can see a team, and the fact that this doesn't look like a home study. Talk to me. You've got staff in the office. When did you furlough some, and when did you bring them back?
So I've been coming into the office every day throughout this anyway, purely because I've got a 3, a 5, and a 6-year-old boy at home who would make working at home pretty much impossible. So I've been coming into the office every day anyway. 2 weeks ago, we brought back 3 managers and 2 directors. We've probably at least 5 metres between all of us after we'd gone through the health and safety process for doing that. And we got 3 of our temp consultants who'd been working from home throughout all of this back into the business last week. We've furloughed some of our perm team in response to the significant reduction of the of permanent opportunities out there. However, this week every day this week, one of our furloughed perm team is coming back into the office for a coffee, just to really sort of start to remind them that the way back is coming. Start to see some of their colleagues, really start getting them thinking in terms of what their business needs to look like. But we're not going to rush that. We're working at the moment, rather than working on recruitment, at the moment we're working on essentially changing our business and restructuring our business and improving our business for the new market that we're going to be working in, so that as we bring our guys back over July and August, we're giving them the best possible chance to be successful by saying, this is the way now that we think that you should work, and rejigging what expectations and what success looks like for the next 6 months. And then, just being in a position to capitalise on this really. We're ahead of the curve of some of our competitors, we think, in the way that we kept so many guys working from home. So we just want to build on that, albeit it's, as we know, there's still slim pickings out there in the marketplace.
Sean, can I come to you with regard to the furlough scenario? Did you furlough staff? And when are you thinking of bringing people not only back from furlough, but back into an office environment?
Yeah, we had quite a lot of demand heading into this, so we didn't furlough our staff for the first 6 weeks of the COVID situation, but then we did. But we really, we had about 18 new starters during the course of the last 5-6 months that we felt weren't equipped to deal with the market. They're still very much going through their training, so they've been sitting at home and they've been engaged with all the new training. Our operational team has mobilised everything and got everything online, so they've been engaged on a weekly basis from a training and education perspective. But we'll be getting those men and women back in the coming weeks. In mainland Europe, clearly there was nothing like furlough, so they're actually all now. We opened up Switzerland 2 weeks ago. All of our countries are now back in office at 25 to 30% on a rotational basis. And to be fair, we've seen business pick up really quickly there. So our productivity is probably 10, 15% below what it would normally be. And every week we're seeing that consistently improve. So they've been back in office for the last 2 weeks. In the UK, we've got our Birmingham and Manchester businesses heading back in next Monday. Again, albeit at 25, 30% to ensure the social distancing. We're very well planned. We've got a crisis management team that's got PPE in every office, and we'll make sure that that's pretty airtight based on how many people we've got in those offices. And our London businesses, we're looking at either a return to work, a partial return to work from the 29th of June. And we've got that staggered all the way through July, August, and then back to September. So dependent on government guidance by a country and also in the UK, we're seeing a little bit more demand in the UK now, which is good. But again, the real pipeline that we would normally expect to be driving this time of year isn't currently there. But yeah, from bringing the furloughed teams back, we'll be bringing those back August. I feel quite confident. We're encouraging people to take holiday. Our productivity dropped. It didn't drop quite as much as we thought it would. So we reforecast the business when this first hit. We're reforecasting, as James just said, we're looking at what does our second half of the year really look like, and we're being very, very directive in terms of what our focus should be for the second half of the year. But look, I've got to, again, I think, we can be pessimistic about it, but for me, I think there's a lot of work that needs doing. And it will be much more about not when we're back in the office, but when our customers are ready to engage again. And we're seeing some of our customers now really, starting to talk to us, and we're seeing an improvement in the UK, albeit a very small one. So we're not out of the woods yet, but I've got to believe that by September, that it will be more towards business as usual.
Yeah. James, can I say something? We can hear the team in the background. So I don't want to hear any deals, but boy, we can hear them. It might be worth getting them to just be a little quieter or sort of stand up.
Is that better?
Yeah, or go on to mute when you're not speaking, perhaps.
If you go on to mute when you're not speaking, we won't be able to hear them, but we can definitely hear them talking in the background. I don't want anyone pinching their clients or going in for any of those placements that are after. Sean, let me come back to you. As a big company, is it, I'm wondering between the two businesses we've got here, is it better in a time like this to be a big company, or is it better, listening to James about reorganizing their business, looking at ways of doing things differently? Pretty obviously, a company the size of Boden is more agile than something the scale of Allegis. Is it better to be a big company or better to be a smaller business?
I dream of having a smaller business and running an office and knowing everybody by name and engaging them personally. So those in my words were still the best days. It's both negative and positive, Anne. I think that from a positive perspective is, we have all the things that you would think a company like us have, right? We've got training development, we've got online, we've got fantastic systems. We mobilize really quickly in terms of working from home. Our technology works. And we're private, which means that we manage the business very much how we see fit. So to be big and private is a massive game, which is one of the main reasons I wanted Aston Carter to be acquired by Allegis, and that was over 9 years ago now. That was certainly the right decision. So yeah, of course there are benefits, but yeah, the challenges are you have a lot of people. We've got 17 offices in EMEA, and they're all between 30 and 200 in size. So you kind of look at that and think, well, we've got to allow the leaders in those offices to really manage those businesses independently. So we're multi-branded. We've got lots of offices. We sit under a major umbrella, but the reality is, the leaders within those offices will be doing exactly the same thing as James is doing and as I would be doing, if I was a director in one of our businesses currently. So yeah, the benefit is very much that we have all the bits that you think that we would have, and we have them, which are really supportive. But yeah, the size of the business doesn't really mean a lot, Anne, because really we're running the businesses by office. It's an office leaders operating rhythm. It's their decision on when they bring teams back. They have a hiring goal to hit. It's all about productivity and producer growth. So we definitely set the metrics and manage the businesses, but we give our office leaders an awful lot of autonomy to run the businesses as I'm sure James is doing. So that H2 plans, I reckon it's probably 90% the same in terms of what they're looking at doing. So yeah, there's lots of benefits. There's probably more for the more senior team to do if it's around engagement, a new working from home policy, all that kind of. And when there are fires, there are normally big fires, right? When a big customer comes and wants a rebate, it's a big conversation. But really, from an operational perspective, you know, the leaders in those offices know what they're doing.
So James, I think in essence, Sean is telling us that size doesn't matter, but does it? Is it better to be smaller, to be more agile, more nimble in this kind of market? Can you look at what your strategy is and make changes because it's down to you? You're still on mute.
I've never, I don't know about better, because I haven't worked in a, you know, or led a business in a large corporate organisation before, so I can only speak of what the opportunities are to be agile within our business. So we've over the last 8 years, we've done a lot of things well that have got us to the position we're at. But what we've also done is, you know, some of the things that we should have done a lot better, we've certainly just swept under the carpet because, you know, revenues are good, growth is good. You know, our position in the market is always growing. So when, you know, if times are good like that, you like to focus on the things that are making money and are good fun, and forgetting about the boring stuff, the infrastructure of the business, you know, putting in some real pillars around the business, around systems and processes, which is a big part of what we're doing at the moment. But we also have to, you know, we want to double down on the things that have made us successful, which is being specialists, which is being, you know, being real partners to our customers, which is being able to dig deep into large organisations at various different levels. So we want to double down on that, but we have to also counteract that with, you know, we're bringing consultants back into a totally changed market, and what worked back in February just won't work now. So if we're asking them to do exactly the same as they were doing back then we're setting them up to fail, and will fail, and they'll fail. So we have to look at what does success look like now that's going to take us through to the next 6 months, and then from there we'll be in a better position to see where the next 3 years can go. Really, we'll know the position, we'll know the government's position from a health and safety point of view, and we'll know exactly what our market looks like. So yeah, not sure about if it's better in a smaller business or bigger, because I don't know the answer to that, but I know that there's a lot that we have to take control of and change, which we're doing at the moment, and there's no reason. If we don't do that, we'll kick ourselves at the end of it. So these opportunities.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a good opportunity. It's a bit like me forcing my husband to decorate the kitchen because he has never done any decorating, and frankly it seemed, you know, we couldn't get a builder in, but now's the time to do those little bits and bobs, isn't it, whether it's at home or whether it's on the business. I've got a question in here which kind of ties into what you've been saying with, again, what does success look like for salespeople when they're coming back from furlough? What are the expectations of people? Are they going to have a run-in to produce figures? Are you keeping sales targets the way they were, or being completely just KPI driven? What are you doing, James, within the business with regard to these kind of expectation sets?
Yeah, so we haven't fully rolled it out to our guys yet, so I won't go into all the details, but the conversations that we've been having as to what success would look like is, I think we have to take two different positions. There's a financial position of the business, and what does success look for from a financial point of view? What do we want to achieve by year end in terms of both our revenue and our net profit? And what does an individual cost to the business? And we then have to take a view of, you know, are we happy that person covers their cost? Do we want them to, you know, to deliver 1.5 times of their cost, and come up with a number that is going to be significantly lower than their target was last year, to say, if you do these things, that will be enough financially for you to have had a successful second half to the year. Now, if we're reducing expectations financially, we have to increase expectations elsewhere. So that's all about changing, you know, in terms of growing customer base, how many different types of conversations we're having with new clients, existing clients, how many, it could be even, you know, down to trying new ways of communicating with our clients. So it could be that, you know, we're pushing a lot more our video technology. So how many video introductions are we sending on a daily or weekly basis? Anything that's in control of our consultants, we will target them on. The things that are outside of their control, which we just can't gauge at the moment because the market's so disrupted, we'll kind of, leave that till going into next year. So I think it's a reduction in financial expectations, but an increase in behaviours and activity, and then creating those good habits so that when revenue comes back next year, it gets easier to be successful, hopefully. And that's the plan.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
far.
yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Sean, from your people, and obviously you've got so many of them, is there a view in the business on what you're going to do with expectations and financial targets, or is it going to be KPIs kind of oriented, or a mix?
I think I want to cover what James said. Again, the impact that COVID's had on people's lives is obviously devastating, right? But historically, I've always quite liked a downturn, because James is right. Irrelevant how big the business is, you tend to brush over the lack of inputs, the lack of client strategy, because things are going well and you're making money. So I actually quite like a period like this where you can really sharpen your pencil a little bit in terms of what should people be doing. We've been very rigorous on that across the board, and you'll be surprised at the level of detail we look at. And again, it's exactly the same as James has said. For me, it's we have to reassess our financial situation. Again, we are large, we're private, so we have certain parameters, by which the board in the US will allow us to operate within. We feel very comfortable within those, and there's been a huge pressure to slash costs across the business. We're very much looking at taking market share and growing out the back of this. So we've held all of our sales staff. I mean, and we're still hiring because we want to come out of this. I mean, in 2008 and 9. We held our headcount and we doubled the size of the business in 3 years thereafter. So our intention is very much exactly the same, to be very proactive in terms of how we go to market. But the level of detail we're planning in, it's all the way down to, as James said, the inputs. For us, it's all about inputs. Again, financially, our consultants, some people are going to make less money. Yep, but you'll be surprised. Some are going to make more money this year than they made last year. From a across the business perspective, our expectations on productivity doesn't change. It just can't change. I don't think lowering standards. I think they have to acknowledge that behaviorally we need to see the inputs. We're very, very focused on our customer acquisition strategy and our customer development strategy, all the way through to, and again, I was on the call this morning, all the way down through to how many customer meetings in this customer does this consultant do? And are they good meetings, and are they video meetings, and what are we getting from those meetings, and what intelligence are we providing? And so it will need to be input driven, based on the situation we currently are. But we are very across the customer. I mean, have been very customer centric in terms of moving our customers up the value chain. 3 years ago, we did no services. Now 60% of the UK is capacity or delivered services to our customers. So we're very much relationship focused, and again, every business has to be that. And I agree. How will this change in the medium to long term? I don't have the answer. All I know is that we have to be engaging our customers, and as importantly as that, we have to be engaging our teams in office. So it won't be KPI driven, but we are very, 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 very focused and clear on what our success metrics do look like, and they may change slightly, but our expectations won't.
So Sean, you've had, obviously, as you said, quite late to furlough, but had some staff furlough. One of the questions that has just come in is, how do you kind of deal with furloughed staff and make sure that there isn't any resentment between furlough and non-furloughed? Yeah. Are there any strategies for the managers reporting into you to look after their staff and keep that fair and good?
Well, we've again, the furlough conversation was a really difficult one, and we were very challenged by that, because really we didn't, did we need to, didn't we need to, is always a question. The reality is this was all about their well-being and their mental health. For someone who's less tenured in a business, to consistently be doing BD or qualifying candidates that, against roles that we don't necessarily have control over, can be very demoralizing. So we decided to focus on their well-being, their engagement, and their training and development, which we were allowed to do. So all of these people have been involved in the weekly setups, the weekly wrap-ups, the engagement, the quiz nights, I'm sure the things that everyone has been doing online throughout the course of the last 4 months. They've been engaged in it, and to this point, we've seen no attrition from that population. So I'm excited to get them back in the office, but they are being engaged as much as they possibly can be. And again, I have a monthly call with them, and we set up an awful lot of, we share we've been very strong on communication. So we've been sharing an awful lot. You know, for me, real clear leadership for me at the moment is around setting clear direction, being really visible in terms of what the expectations are, and just communicate. So we've kept that consistent with the men and women who have been working and the men and women who haven't been. And again, it's a small population of our salespeople that have been furloughed, and the men and women who should be going through training at the moment, and that hand-to-hand combat that they would normally see in an office, that's very, very difficult to replicate that learning experience when they're not in office. So, you know, for me, you know, we're excited to get them back in. Remember, we've been hiring through this last 4 months. So we've been having inductions remotely with men and women who've never been in the office, you know, yet I'm doing a Q&A with them at the end of their first week. So predominantly in mainland Europe, we haven't been doing that in the UK so much, but we've been hiring through this period because, again, it's all about, for me, how quickly can we get back what we've lost and make sure really the focus is to be best positioned to continue growing the business double digit in 2021.
Yeah. Okay, I've had a question that I'm going to pass over to Tania, which is, whom can I furlough after June, and how many can I furlough per month? And when do I submit a furlough claim after June? So, yeah, we're covering quite a bit on furlough. Whom can I furlough after June? How many per month? And when do I submit a furlough claim? Tania.
Okay, thanks, Anne. We're finalising, by the way, our updated guidance on the job retention scheme. So I'm hoping to get it up on the website later today or latest tomorrow morning. Who can I furlough after June? Well, you can only furlough people that have been furloughed previously. So they will have to have been furloughed for at least 3 weeks prior to the 30th of June in order to be able to put them on furlough or continue them on furlough after the 1st of July. There is a maximum that you can furlough per month, and that's the most you had furloughed in any 1 month between the start of the scheme and the end of June. So, for example, if you furloughed 50 people in March, 60 people in May, and 20 people in June, then you could only furlough a maximum of 60 in any month after the 1st of July. Obviously, for a lot of people, the numbers are going to be a lot smaller than that. So you are limited. You can't furlough everybody that you've previously furloughed necessarily. And the way you need to submit a claim is changing after June because the scheme's changing every single month. So to enable HMRC to process the claims, you have to make one claim covering 1 month. So whereas at the moment there's quite a lot of flexibility about the period you're claiming for and when you claim. So you have to claim for up to the 30th of June by the 31st of July. But then for July, August, September, it's expected that you claim at the end of the month, but you need to be absolutely certain about who you're claiming for and the number of hours you're claiming for before you claim, because it's going to be very difficult, I think, for you to adjust that claim once you've submitted it, and you can only make one claim for one period. But as I said, there's a lot of guidance on gov.uk. In a way, there's so much guidance, it's quite hard to digest, so we're trying to summarise it for members. Although, if you are using the furlough scheme, you have to look at the government.uk guidance. You can't just rely on our guidance.
I've also got another question, and thank you for that. Do I need to reissue agreements with my furlough staff for July onwards?
I think if you unless you intend to keep them on full-time furlough, I don't think you necessarily do need to reissue the agreement. If you're going to switch them to flexible furlough, because from the 1st of July, they can work certain days of the week when you pay them fully, and then they can be furloughed and received a pro rata amount of their furlough pay for those other days of the week. So there is flexibility. If you're going to move people onto a flexible furlough scheme, then I think you do need to, well, the guidance says you have to notify them in writing that you intend to do that. So again, that you are doing that, and it is a variation of their contract. So again, we are going to put a precedent together over the course of the coming days. The government is not being that prescriptive about how you document it, apart to say that it must be in writing and it must be a variation of contract.
Yeah. Sean, can I come to you? Obviously, as we know, you furlough some staff. Are you looking at having some of them on part-time, coming back part-time furlough? Or is it going to be a bit of an all or nothing scenario?
No, as soon as we, and again, the office leaders are able to make that decision themselves, right? And again, we've probably got about 80 across the whole region, right, in the UK. The office leaders can make that determination, but that's not our intention, in my view. I think that we want to get these men and women back into the office, back working, all working remotely. I think that's probably where we will change. We're coming out with a new working from home policy in October, which I think will, we're going to review what's an office for, why do we use it, where do we need them. We have a lot of real estate, which I think this is the shift I think everyone's been waiting for, and it's been very interesting to work in this way. I miss the office. I'm a bit jealous of James sitting in his office, to be honest. I miss the idea of the team being there, a bit of banter, and probably a Friday afternoon beer. So I think we will want to get back in those offices. And I will want to get these people engaged. They joined us for a reason. I want them engaged. I want them working. I want them learning. I want them being successful. So as soon as we can, we want to get them engaged fully again. I think the whole part-time piece for me won't work.
Okay, James, what about you? Part-time working, part-time furloughed, or an all or nothing kind of approach?
I mean, very much dependent on the individual. I think where we're at is that we probably will, for certain desks in certain sectors, bring one or two consultants back on a part-time basis, or possibly even more than that. And the reason for that is we're still working through our new way of working, so to speak. So what the plan is, if we can bring guys back on 1 or 2 days a week, we should also help with the social distancing in the office. If we can stagger that, get them back into a way of learning about our new way of working without having that pressure straight away of the cost on the overhead. That's something we probably will do. Other individuals who are, most people are chomping at the bit to get back. So there'll certainly be people on a full-time basis as well, whichever month that will be. But it is very much led on, the job they do, the market they work in, the sector they work in. Because even though we work in one industry, subsectors are very much more buoyant or quieter than others. So we have to take that into consideration as well. And also the personal situation of that individual. So we've got parents in the office. We have individuals who might be, for various reasons, wouldn't be able to come back at the moment full time, but can't also work from home either. So we have to take that into account. But just like Sean, I think we're aiming to, certainly by August, we'll have, all things being well, a full team back full time, hopefully firing on all cylinders, and that's the month that we're aiming for.
Look, you've had people in the office for the last couple of weeks, which is early compared to some of your competitors and some of the recruitment market. What made you want to bring people back quite that early, James?
So it wasn't necessarily me wanting to bring the guys back that early. We've surveyed since we've been working from home, and the office hasn't been open. We have regular engagement conversations, and we sent out surveys to our team. So, and based on the answers that we got from those surveys about people's intention and desire to get back to work, get back to the office, it was very clear that we wanted to open that up to the managers and the directors so that they could start working together to build this new Boden. We didn't have to have a conversation with anybody as to convince them to do that, because everybody said that they wanted to. And if somebody had said that they, for whatever reason, that they weren't comfortable with it, we would have been able, been happy for them to stay working from home, because it was actually working pretty well. but we put it over to the guys, and as long as the environment was safe, we found that for whatever reason, it pretty much every single one of our team throughout the surveys and the individual conversations have wanted to get back into the office. Now, we're fortunate in that you can just jump in your car, drive up to a quiet car park, get in the office, don't have to get on a train or a bus, which probably makes a bit of a difference compared to if we're a city centre having to get on public transport, crammed in without any social distancing, which would have made a lot of difference. But and June, the beginning of June was always the date that we looked at the office opening, and people, I think if we'd have asked in April or May when it was sunny and everyone was loving life, then it would have been maybe a different response. But got to 10 weeks in and it's not ready to get back to the office. We need to start building for the rest of this year and 2021. So it's it felt like the right time all round.
Yeah, Tania, for you, what is the government guidance on people getting back into offices?
Sorry, Anne. There is a lot of guidance on the government website on gov.uk coronavirus, going through their workplace guidance. There's specific guidance for offices. That's what we based our unlocking the lockdown document that's on the coronavirus hub on, that we did with Squire Patton Boggs. There's also a risk assessment.
Let me just give a plug for that. So anybody out there that hasn't had a look at that document, APSCo have the risk assessment paperwork and a really detailed document called Unlocking the Lockdown. I would advise anybody that's planning to open up their office or is in that process to download that document. It's there for you and it's really good. And a number of our members are ringing us saying, oh my goodness, we've used that and it's really helped us. I would truly encourage everyone to have a look. Sorry, Tania, I just wanted to plug it a bit extra. It's free for all members. Download it, use it. It's good. Sorry, Tania.
And we will keep that. I'm sure we'll keep that updated, although it's still up to date at the moment. The government guidance is work from home if you can. And I think, as you quite rightly said, James, for a lot of recruiters, they are in city centre locations. So it's as much about the transport as it is about the actual office location. But the government guidance, and our guidance to a lesser extent, but the government guidance is really quite explicit about steps you can take. You shouldn't feel that you have to take every step that anybody in any environment could take to have a safe workplace. It's about taking what's reasonably practicable to have a safe workplace, and that is going to depend on what you're doing, who's in the office, how big the office is, what sort of ventilation you have. So there are quite a lot of sort of subjective factors as well as objective factors. But I think the overarching principle is you don't have to do everything you could possibly do to have a safe working environment.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, I've got a question here, really aimed at Sean, actually. Sean, how different will the recovery be, do you think, compared to the credit crisis and coming out the other side of that? Do you have a view? We've been here, done this, recessions. I mean, this is marginally different, isn't it? Let's face it. But if you look at 2008, what's the difference do you reckon it's going to be?
Well, I mean, I would love it to be the same because we came out of that period very strong. I think most companies will be doing the same right now. They'll be looking at their customer strategy. They'll be generating, it'll be new business, I'd have thought, just as we're doing. And they'll be looking at like what customers we're really going to focus on based on their demand and where they see it. My personal view, I think that we still have Brexit to get over. I think the re-emergence of R35 will have an impact next year, but I have to believe that the general economy, and again, we work in three very specific sectors, technology, professional, and also life sciences. We've seen a difference there. Our technology practices have been very buoyant, as our life sciences. Professional's been hit quite hard. and we've not had a problem with onboarding a lot of our contractors or projects remotely. So our customers are they're fine for us to be remote, managing people remotely, onboarding remotely. So we need our customers to get back in their offices and start really looking at getting their work done. I don't think we all need to head back into the office. I think that, as James said, Birmingham, Manchester will open because they can all drive into there. They live in the centre of Manchester, can walk to the office, or they live and it's just outside Birmingham, can drive in. Same with Edinburgh and Glasgow, although it's slightly different up in Scotland. But in central London, that's where the problem's going to be. There are some people who can walk to work or can bike to work, but there's a lot of people who travel, as we all know, an hour and a half, sometimes an hour and a half even, through train and tube to get to the office. We're being very open with that. If we've got individuals at a certain level who live outside, or any level really, and they don't feel comfortable coming in, we'll hold that off. We're expecting our customers to do the same. But at the moment, the way I sense it, I reckon by the end of the summer, appetite and demand will come back. At what pace it comes back is the question. But I have to believe that certainly what we're hearing, that our customers have a lot of pent up demand and work that needs doing, and they want to get that work done. And I have to believe that will become the new norm. Where they do the work, how they do the work, and how we can support them moving forward may differ and may change slightly. But I think their need to get the work done isn't going to change. So I don't think it will be as sharp a rebound as we personally experienced in 2009 and 10. But I think there's definitely a market share there to be had. I mean, that's certainly, we've doubled down on, we're going to keep hiring, we're going to push through it, and we're going to take the upside when it comes. I think it will come at the back end of this year, is my belief.
So that's fairly quick. Do you think that work will change, the whole nature of work? Are more people going to end up working from home, whether they're in recruitment companies or whether at the end user client base? Yeah. Are they going to be working from home now?
Yeah, I think end user clients, absolutely. I mean, some of our larger customers, they're like, we're never going back to the way it was. I think that we have a lot of real estate exposure, which we'll need to work through, but we're already looking at that and thinking, look, again, where do we need offices? Where don't we? How big should they be? What are they for? Remember, I'm old school. I like the idea of an office full of, men and women and the energy that comes from that. But I think that's going to change. I really do. And I think we've been working on a working from home policy, which now needs to be changed again in terms of what does good look like. But again, we've got a lot of technology where we are, we're driving our operating rhythms through online portals and through our internal systems that makes it really at the right level. It makes it a very easy, an easy way to work. And why would you want to travel, to and fro for 2 hours a day if you can do the work mostly at home and come in for 2 days a week? So I still believe, and not everyone within the company agrees with me, that when you join the industry, it's hand-to-hand combat. You need to be in the office surrounded by people you need to learn. It's an education process, and you need to get out and see the customer at a particular level where you are performing at a level and you can manage your customer base, in a slightly different way. I do think it's going to change, Anne. I think I'm excited for everybody because, I think that in the coming, 12, 18 months, the world will have to change. And I'm excited for the teams because, that kind of flexibility 5-10 years ago, we'd have got laughed at, but I think that will become the new norm. And I've found it fine working from home. I miss the office, but does it need to be 10 hours a day, 5 days a week? Do I need to travel 3.5 months a year and be away from home 3.5 months a year? No. Do we need to gather all of our new starts in London or in Brussels, every 4 to 6 weeks when we hire them and train them? No, we can do that remotely. So I think there will be significant changes in all of that. I'm pretty sure that I would think probably in London, I think most companies that are based in London are looking at their real estate footprint and thinking, what do I really need?
James, that comes up. Sorry, go for it.
I think it's exciting for everybody. I think it's, the new, we're catching up. An old industry is going to catch up with the new world. And I think it offers real differentiators for companies that can embrace that and move that forward. So I think it's exciting.
I think you're right, although embracing that change might be difficult for James's business because, of course, his team plays in facilities management and property. Is it going to affect your market, this view that a number of people are going to start working from home, James?
Will it affect it? Yes, absolutely. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll affect it to its detriment, though. If you look at the real estate market and big organisations looking to totally revamp and restructure their real estate portfolio, that takes specialist candidates to come in and do that, and not just one or two. It's by the tens and by the hundreds to do that. Just recently we've been getting requests from customers to place moves and changes managers, space planning managers, and these are people who go into organisations and manage these whole, the whole of their property portfolio and look at how many people can fit in a certain office and so on and so forth and make it safe. There'll always be opportunities that can come off the back of it with diverting slightly. We've been really successful on COVID testing sites. So we work with big outsourcers, and we're placing a lot of managers on a contract basis who are running these COVID testing sites. So if you're close enough to the market, close enough to the industry, you'll see that, yes, there's in certain areas and certain job groups, there's going to be a big reduction. But if you're close enough to the market, you'll know where the opportunity is in terms of putting our specialist candidates into there to make the most of it. And the businesses who aren't specialists, won't see that, they won't know where to look, and they will probably fall foul of it. Regarding some of the big organisations and the property businesses out there, there is absolutely, they are looking at their portfolio and seeing whether their staff need to all be in a certain office. But I think the dust needs to settle slightly on the whole of the COVID situation before we can actually look at it and say, well, this is going to be the long-term effect. Because I think until we can actually see, and second waves or how these companies are actually performing operationally, how well they're performing with all their staff at home. If you're a bank or a law firm, whatever it might be, I think you need to let the dust settle, see on a day-to-day basis, over the next 6 to 12 months, how it works operationally. And if it does work, which I suspect it will, then you'll see significant migration to a lot more working from home. But if the market doesn't pick up as we thought, and businesses feel that they're getting more productivity from people being in the office, I think the talks of the death of the office may be slightly premature.
Well, they tend to be, don't they? There's always that sort of big concern when things first happen. If we do start working a lot more from home, how is the culture of Allegis and the different companies within Allegis going to survive people working from home, not being around to create a culture and to live that culture? Because it has a strong culture, Allegis, doesn't it?
Yeah, yes, it's significant. It's significantly important, and I'm with James. There's no death of the office. I think the offices will continue. I think what they're there for and how big they are, I think, will be a question. There's no death of the office. I think we need all the offices that we've got. In fact, I probably think we need more of them, but just smaller ones. I think we've realised that there is a maximum capacity to have a productively, culturally and engaged office. We've learned that over years. We've got big floors with 150, 200 people on it. It's very, very difficult to build a culture with floors that big. So we've realised that when you get to 40, 50 people, that's kind of the tipping point in terms of really being able to drive a strong culture and really engage with one good leader, really driving that business. It's not the death of it. Culture is the single most important thing we have in our business. So I think that that's why, to be in an office is important. There are other ways that you can drive engagement. Our operating rhythm is as important, for me. So, but we can deal with that from a tech perspective. But for culture, it has to be about building relationships. It's all about the relationships with your team. So you have to find other ways of doing it. Now, I don't think that you're suddenly going to be working from home 5 days a week. Absolutely not. I think that you will spend, if you look at your day, look, are you going to spend 2-3 days in the office? I would absolutely think so. Would you spend a couple of days on customer site or working from home? Maybe. I don't know how it's going to play out, but the need to build strong, meaningful relationships with your team is something I've learned in the last 8-9 years. And, I think we did it quite naturally in Aston Carter previously, but it is singularly, the differentiate within all Allegis Group companies. The culture is so strong. And I looked at our tenure board in terms of 5, 10, 15, 20, tenured in our business. The list is long, right? And it's I couldn't be prouder of that fact. And that has everything to do with our culture. I'm sure they could get paid a bit more money down the road, probably. But the reality is it's about what they're leaving behind. So for me, every company should be focusing on culture, and culture can only be built through personal relationships and trust. So that has to be, however that ends up being worked through, you have to find a way to be able to do that, in my view.
Yeah. James, how would you describe the Boden culture?
So fairly similarly to what Sean's described there. So we've got you know, a number of people who've come up with the business since it was, you know, from the first couple of years that we set it up, and you know, we've really made a point of everything that we do is trying to retain that culture of when we were 3 or 4 strong up to when we're, you know, all the way through to when we're 30 strong, and that's quite straightforward and easy to do when you're all in that office together, working with the same customers, collaborating, sharing. As I say, it's easy to retain. The culture that we have is very much, you know, we like to set people the vision of where the business is going, and then sort of put it over to them and support them. But they've got to then take their career where they see fit with us, and that comes through innovation, entrepreneurialism, you know, stuff like the trust and the collaboration that Sean was talking about. And if you've got that, then you do, you know, that plays into the retention of people. And it's very difficult to have any kind of culture if you've got a big turnover of staff, which is something that we've never had. So, yeah, retention is a big part of whatever culture you've got. If you want to keep it, you've got to, you know, keep people who are bought into it. How to retain a culture in a working from home environment? Again, like Sean says, you know, I wouldn't see that being particularly easy if it was 5 days a week. But if you've got a situation where you're using that time properly when people are in the office together for 2 days a week, and then they're sort of delivering on the stuff that needs to have their head down outside of that, or working with customers, then I think that's something possible. If you'd have asked me 12 months ago, would you be thinking about Boden in the future having a scenario when anybody's working from home at any point? I'd have said absolutely not, because it'd take too much away from what we're all about. But, you know, certainly for the next 6 months, I'd probably say the same. And it's not something we want to do. But once we've got our business ready for the new world, is it something we consider? Absolutely, because, you know, parts of it, I love doing it myself as well. So, yeah, it's, you know, if you asked me, as I say, you asked me 6 months ago, I'd have said no, and I've got a different answer for you today, and I'll probably have a different answer for you in 6 months' time as well, because it's ever evolving. So, yeah, the biggest risk is that you lose the culture by not all being together. But as I say, the world's changing, and there's many ways to stay connected and in touch with each other and retain that don't
Okay, so the world is changing now, and there's a big focus, and it needed to have happened ages ago. I don't know how it's taken quite so long for this big focus to be happening on diversity, inclusion, pretty obviously with the Black Lives Matter campaign out there, other big issues. We're in the middle of Pride Month. How good do you think the recruitment market are of within our businesses reflecting what the world looks like outside the door in Birmingham or in any of those places? Sean, how diverse do you think Allegis is? Should the whole of the recruitment market be making more effort to get a real mix within the business?
Well, that's a big question. No, I don't think it's diverse enough. I think we've got some offices and some businesses that are really diverse and really mirror, you know, the local community and mirror our customers. I think there are other offices where that isn't the case, and that's not for me. That's gender, that's race, that's colour, you know, that's religion, right? I think that, you know, recruitment historically has always been, I mean, you know, back, you know, a long time ago, I mean, it was white, it was male, it was aggressive, right? It was, I mean, I think the whole industry's evolved an awful lot over the course of the last 15, 20 years, certainly since I've been involved in it, and we've made steps in the right direction. You know, for us as a business, you know, we have an R&D committee, you know, we have our own internal ratios in terms of hiring, in terms of interviews, in terms of ratios of who we want to bring into the business. And I think that's, over the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen a really great shift. Particularly around gender was initially our biggest, problem's the wrong word, but where we were lacking, absolutely. But yeah, we've always been very strong in terms of engaging you know, cultures, you know, but we had unconscious bias training. I mean, again, that's the bit where the big company bit comes in. We get all this great stuff shared with us and we're able to bring it into our business. But ultimately, it depends on how the leader feels. You know, I feel very strongly that I think, you know, inclusion, diversity is critical in our business. Do I think, you know, if we're out of 10, you know, we're no better than a 6. And we've been trying at this really a long time. And you know, it's hard. It's hard to shift the needle in that 20. You can't just suddenly hire a group and pretend it's all, you know, it's all done. You know, it absolutely is. And that's where the work starts. So, you know, we've looked at a lot of our hiring profiles, you know, our onboarding and how we make sure we're being very supportive. But over the course of the years, all I can tell you is that the induction groups that I take every 4 to 6 weeks, and I do a similar Q&A at the end of their first week's onboarding in the business, it's becoming more diverse, more international as the months and the quarters goes on, of which we're incredibly proud of. But it takes a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of work. And as an industry, I don't think we're there yet.
No, I think you're right. James, sort of tightly, how diverse do you think Boden is as a business? Is there anything you want to change about it?
How diverse are we as a business? We're in a much better place now than we were 3 years ago. So around about 3 years ago, we made a decision that we certainly, from a gender balance point of view, we just didn't have enough females coming through at the level that we wanted to, and that was because we hadn't hired enough females at the right level, and probably and result of hiring in our own image to a certain extent. Birmingham's a very diverse city anyway, so we've always had access to a talented pipeline of candidates who are from the BAME communities, and that's never really been an issue. I think where recruitment businesses can do better is it's probably very easy to hire, you know, a diverse workforce. It's once they're actually in the business, how much of an opportunity they have to progress through the business, because as I say, getting them into the business is fairly straightforward, but how do you make sure that you're giving them every opportunity and a fair opportunity to progress to the level, and it's not just hiring in your own image. So that's what I say is the biggest issue in the recruitment business, and it's often in the owner's image, but to do that, it's sometimes takes that for that owner to no longer be with the business, or for somebody to have very stark conversations with them to say that it isn't good enough. We're also, as a business, we're good at promoting equality and diversity in the FM industry, who are brilliant at it, and it's very high profile. I don't really see that within the recruitment sector, be it through any of the organisations that, the trade organisations or individual businesses. I think we could do better, but again, it's a shared responsibility of everybody.
Yeah, I think that's right. Look, I think there's a real opportunity. So just so that you know, APSCo and Women in Recruitment, and we do an awful lot of things, a couple of things a week, actually during COVID, on a Thursday and also on a Friday, to promote the view of women coming into the business, to attract them to the recruitment market, but also to show them you can have a family if that's what you want and be successful in recruitment. And so we've done a lot of work on that, and there's a number of members in that, and that's gone very well. We've also done a lot of work with one of the areas that neither of you mentioned, that's about disability. So we work with the Business Disability Association to really push the idea that it doesn't matter if a recruitment consultant has a physical disability or other disabilities. Actually, they can still be hugely productive. And there's, if you think about it, being productive and having your figures on the board, it doesn't matter what you are at the end of the phone. I mean, it kind of makes no difference whatsoever. And so we can be a catalyst, not only within our own teams, but we can be a catalyst for change at end user client sites. And that's something that we should pick up, and maybe we need to pick up more. APSCo, you'll notice, for anyone looking at our website or getting an email from anyone, this is Pride Month. As I mentioned, our logo is multicolored for this month to support Pride. I think we need to be careful not to get into tokenism or whatever. If we're going to do something, we need to really go for it. But there's a real opportunity, because the biggest problem, forget COVID for the moment, the biggest problem for all recruitment companies is finding fantastic talent and getting them to enjoy and love the market in as much as probably we do, the few of us that are here. Why don't I bring this to an end, I want to thank, we're just coming toward 12 o'clock, so thank you to Sean, to James, to Tania, and let me just make sure that as businesses, we are starting to come back. Some people are planning it, some people doing it. Make sure those environments are safe and that your staff feel they're in safe hands, because that's something that we can all do. We've got a couple of things happening, one this afternoon and also tomorrow, that are based around international stuff. So we have on APSCo Neil Parker from NatWest, who is the FX market strategist, looking at the global economy and what's likely to happen to that in the next few months and a bit further forward. And then also tomorrow, a great mate of mine from America, we have Mark Roberts, who heads up the Tech Serve Alliance. He's going to look at the US market, what's going on over there. And a lot of our members we know either are interested in America or have an office in America. And what tends to happen in America will happen here too, maybe not exactly. We do have a slightly different president stroke prime minister, but what happens there in the market tends to come our direction. So there's a number of things happening. What I would say is thank you for your honesty, your openness to our panelists, and good luck with everybody in their business moving forward. Stay safe. I never stay alert, because since Dominic Cummings, I always thought it was stay elite, but stay safe is the big message out there. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Anne. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, James. Bye, Sean.